Hello everyone, it's Carrie here from the Female Entrepreneur Association, and I am so ridiculously excited right now because I am joined by the amazing New York Times best-selling author, Gabrielle Bernstein. Woo! That's amazing.
Yay!
I'm so excited that you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
So we're going to be talking today all about how we can all move past our fears, release our blocks, get over our self-limiting beliefs, and just start living more of a life of faith where we actually live a life we love and we achieve the things we want to achieve. So it's going to be so powerful, especially for us as entrepreneurs. So I can't wait to talk about it. Gabby's going to be sharing her tips and tricks and some lessons for you. And at the end, we're doing a giveaway. So make sure you stick around for all of it. But Gabby, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I love you.
I am so excited about your new book. Congratulations on it. The universe has your back. I love the name. It's such an amazing name.
Yay. I love it too. It's something I've been saying for a long time. You can see the little title right there. People are like, where'd you come up with that title? And in my first book, Add More Ink to Your Life, the last chapter was Know the Universe Has Your Back. Maybe the second last chapter. Know the universe has your back. And so it's sort of this like common phrase I started using even 10 years ago when I was writing that book. And so 7 years ago. And so it was sort of this sense of living in the know and living and having a sense of certainty no matter what. And that's what the book's about. So really getting into that place of certainty.
I absolutely love it. Is this your fifth book with Hay House?
It's not my fifth book with Hay House. It's my fifth book. And it's my second Hay House book. Yeah.
Oh, it's so amazing. I just love all of your books. I feel like every single book you've written shares such a powerful message. And this one in particular, I think, with it helping people to just get off the fear path, because fear affects every single one of us. I know I am plagued by my fears all the time, and it's like I'm constantly trying to figure out how I can just trust that everything will figure itself out and that I can achieve the things I want to achieve and live the life that I want to live. But some people really struggle, and I know I've struggled with it so much in the past, and I'm sure you have struggled with it, and I'm sure a lot of, obviously you share so many stories in the book. But that's why I'm really excited to talk about this. But what inspired you to write the book? Do you have any stories of things you experienced relating to fear that have really triggered you to want to talk about it more?
Well, I think that, you kind of said it perfectly. It's like we all have our own fear and suffering on a moment to moment basis, regardless of how long we've been on a spiritual path or how much daily prayer and meditation we have in our life. We still are experiencing fear moment to moment. The goal of this book is just to get you to a place where you no longer believe in the fear, where the voice of love becomes stronger than the fear, where the fear is still present, of course, because it's just naturally there, but it's no longer what you believe to be true. And so I have been on a path for my whole life, I think, really a devoted spiritual path since I was born. And being on a spiritual path means you're on a journey of unlearning fear and remembering love. And so all of my books have that common thread and that theme, but this one in particular really is sort of like the next level. It's like an up-leveling of spiritual acceptance and faith and surrender, truly. And I believe that we're living in times where if we don't have a spiritual connection, we're going to feel like we're a fish out of water, regardless of whether it's with our career or just being alive at these times. And so it was really my duty and my responsibility to write a book that was going to give people an anchor and give them a greater sense of foundation and strength beneath their feet so that they can walk through life feeling a little bit more connected, a little bit more safe, a little bit more supported, and hopefully down the road, surrender fully and completely to that faithfulness and that path of their own understanding.
I love that. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have that in my life, that spiritual side, and trying to ground myself and, people like you in my life to help guide the way and show everyone, the things we can do, the daily routines and daily actions we can take to help us to kind of keep the faith. So obviously, over my entire experience building the Female Entrepreneur Association, I have always put out surveys to my audience. I've always been asking questions to try and understand their challenges and frustrations more and what is really holding them back. And it is obviously no surprise that the number one thing holding them back is themselves, even if they aren't aware of it, because it is there written in their words. Even if they think it's something else, it's always themselves. And so often it is it's caused by those fears and those doubts, and that often slips actually, like, you go on a slippery path downhill when then you start thinking, can I even do this? And then your faith begins to dwindle and you start questioning whether you can make it happen. And so many people end up giving up, which is such a shame, because if they had shifted from the fear path and moved over to a path of faith, they could have created something so incredible and so beautiful. So what can people do who are feeling like that now, who are feeling like they are so consumed with fears and doubts and worries, and they are really, really struggling to keep the faith? Because I know there's so many people out there, and I know I've experienced it so many times myself. But what can those people do to shift from feeling the fear and being on that path to being on the path where they just have the faith?
Well, I begin the whole book with lessons on how to recognize and witness your resistance. And so the people that you're describing, the ones that you described as being in their own way, which is a great way to describe it, that they're in their own way. Really, they're stuck in resistance to the presence of their greatness. And so the first step to unraveling the fear cycle is to be the witness, the non-judgmental witness of that fear, to be able to witness it, to be able to look at it, to be able to call it by its name, and own that it is not who you are. But you can't separate yourself from that fear until you look at it. And you can't actually, in some cases, like you were describing, you can't even know that it is coming from you until you have a fearless inventory to look at it. Mm-hmm. So stop blaming the world, stop pointing the finger, stop resisting or stop running. And that's when you can start to get real. And so the whole beginning stages of this book are really about helping you look at your fears so that you can know the ways that you've been running, playing small, resisting, and avoiding really showing up for your truth. And then as you start to get a conscious clarity around the ways that you've been resisting, that's when you can start to get to work with how to change that resistance and how to shift that resistance. But I mean, you really can't begin to shift it until you're honestly going to look at it.
Yeah, that is so true. So many of us have our heads buried in the sand.
Yeah.
So are there any practical things people can do on a daily basis to help them to start uncovering what's really going on so they can start making the shift?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing to do would be start to look at the way that your words and your actions are affecting your energy and how that energy is affecting your life. So if you're walking around as an entrepreneur saying, I can't get there, or my business isn't good enough, or Carrie's already done it, I can't do it, which I'm sure you hear a lot. Those stories are creating your reality, and owning the power of those stories and getting grounded in the fact that you are listen, I have a extraordinarily successful business, and I have absolutely no business background. I started my first business. I'm just going to say this. None of this is to brag. This is to show you how the power of intention and faith can clear the path for you to do the work that you're here to do. But I started my first business at 21. It was a PR business. I had a degree in theater. I had no idea how to run a business. I had no idea how to do PR, but I knew I could sell things, and I just believed. And so I had a successful first business. And at 25, it shifted gears when I changed my own life and I became an entrepreneur in the field of personal growth and development. And today now, five books later, New York Times bestsellers, a very, very successful school that I've created. I have a business beyond my wildest dreams, not because I had the credentials for it, but because I believed in it. And so if I had said, I need an MBA, or if I had said, I have no literary background, I can't even string a sentence together, how can I write a book? The world would not be touched by the 5 books that I have written. So my point here is not to brag. My point here is to say, do not deprive the world of your gifts. And if you think, I can't, I have 8th grade English. That's as far as I went with my literary career, 8th grade English. But I figured it out because I knew that I had to give these gifts in some way. And so don't deny the world your gifts because of your fear. And that first step of, I think, the first practical step to truly answer your question is to sit in your prayer and your daily devotion and stillness daily and get grounded in the gifts that you're here to bring, and let those gifts be the driving force, not the fear.
I love that. That is so empowering. I think people need to hear that message every single day. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So do you have any lessons that you could share that are inside the book that people can try out for themselves? So
one would be beautiful. It's there's a whole chapter I wrote on spiritual surrender. And I think this will be really relevant to your readers because it's for anyone who's trying to control an outcome or, trying to play God. And so the first step is that your plans are in the way of God's plans. So you've God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it. So get out of the fucking way. That's really the answer. Get out of the way. And the way that we get out of the way, first and foremost, is through prayer. We can, say a prayer through writing it in a journal. We can say a prayer by saying it out loud to a friend or silently praying in our own mind and saying something along the lines of, thank you, universe, for taking this control from me and showing me where to go and what to do. Or thank you, universe, for revealing to me what I need to know. Thank you for helping me get out of my own way. And so anything that you can do to start to get into a dialogue with the universe to really offer up what it is that's standing in your way. So today, my book is out and I've got all this stuff going on, and there's definitely a little fear-based story that's still lingering of like, it's too good to be true or whatever. It's like, thank you, universe, for taking any doubt and limitation from me that is going to stand in the way of this book serving the masses, serving millions of people. And so that feels so energizing just saying that to you because you see how that felt for me. And so that feeling of when you're in that prayer of thank you for taking this from me, that is such a powerful action in the surrendering and offering up of what it is that you want to let go of. And then the next step in spiritual surrender that is profound is to give up time, to turn over outcomes and time. And the ways that you can turn over those outcomes and time is through really accepting and grounding in what is present in your life, right? So if you're like, I want that book deal, but rather than and you're not getting the book deal, then focus on the blog, right? Okay, you have an opportunity every day to write to readers, right? Put all your love and your energy into your blog, and then before you know it, somebody's going to be knocking on your door saying, this is a book.
I love that so much. That's funny. That's actually exactly what happened to me. I literally had to let go of the whole dream of writing the book so that I could just get out of my own way and just focus on something else. And then it happened. Yeah. Exactly. I love that. And I love as well that you just said, obviously, that you still have fears, because I think this is something else a lot of people think that, maybe they think that you don't have fears or that you have everything figured out in this perfect world and this,
Open this book, Carrie, and you can be like, oh, Gabby's got a lot of shit going on. Yeah, no, I get really honest in the book and I tell you the stories of all of my fears and my, I get very, very vulnerable. Very honest. I tell stories that I've never shared before, very personal stories about my own, path with trying to become a mother and my path of recovering from addiction and my path of dealing with trauma. And, I have a lot of fear. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be an authentic teacher.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so powerful and your books are amazing. I think this book is fantastic. Everyone needs to buy a copy. So thank you so much for coming to share that with us. I think this is going to be a video people watch over and over again just to hear the words that you said, because it's so powerful. I think a message that every single one of us needs to hear consistently, because fear is always wriggling its way in somehow. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you, sweetie.
Also, everyone, definitely go and buy Gabby's book. The link is below this video. Also, on a very exciting note, we are doing a giveaway too. We are giving away 3 copies of The Universe Has Your Back. All you need to do to be in with a chance is leave a comment below and just share your experiences with fear in your life. Has it impacted you? How has it impacted you? And any tips and tricks that you want to share that's really helped you to move past it. Leave a comment below. We are going to be picking the winners this Friday, so make sure you comment soon. But I really hope you've enjoyed this. I know I have loved it. I can't wait to hear your comments below, and I will see you next week for another dose of inspiration.